Salvete omnes! If you'd like to support the channel along with these patrons, there's a link in the description box below. I've mentioned participles in a few of the lessons, but now it's time to explore these in depth. Participles are verbs that are changed into adjectives. For example, excited, interesting, surprised, etc. So since these are adjectives, they have to agree with the noun they are modifying in gender, number, and case, just like all Latin adjectives. This is nothing new, but they can also have tense and mood, which is the hard part. This is like the difference between a surprised man and a surprising man, but gets more complicated. The way we form a present participle is the same as the imperfect past tense, but instead of the ba ending, we add ns. So this means the vowel before the ns is always long in this declension, except the I, which changes to ie with a long e. So how would we say the studying student? Discipulus studens. This is the nominative form, and as you recall, for third declension nouns, the nominative form usually doesn't match. The same goes for participles. For all other forms, we use nt instead of ns, and then decline it like a third declension adjective. The third declension was covered in the last video, linked above. Additionally, the vowel before the nt becomes short. Let's try this with the verb currere. The accusative form of this would be currentem. And this means running or hastening, just like a current runs through a wire. So what does the following sentence mean? Femina puerum currentem videt. The woman saw the running boy. This is the least complicated way that participles are used, simply as adjectives. Let's try one that's a little harder. Say, I read the sleeping boy's letter. Epistulam pueri dormientis lego. We have to decline both the boy and sleeping in the genitive form because they are a unit. Adjectives always match the nouns they modify, although sometimes they don't look alike because they are different declensions. Now try to say, I give water to the running girl. Puellae currenti aquam do. Here again, the girl and running are a unit, so they are both in the dative form. And the regular conjugation for the third declension is the same for masculine and feminine nouns, so they are both currenti in the dative form. It is only the neuter form that is different in the accusative and plural nominative form. So declination is not so difficult for this type of participle. This form of the participle is called the present active participle. But don't worry so much about the name. These are the verbs that get changed into adjectives that end in ing in English. There's another way we can use these participles. Look at the next sentence. Nihil dicens habet. Look first at the verb at the end. It is the perfect past tense of it, or she goes. But it has the prefix ab added. And if you remember, the prefix ab means from or away. So this word means he or she left or went away. This is the main part of the sentence. Can you figure out the rest? Nihil dicens means saying nothing. So altogether it's saying nothing, she left. So we can see here that participles can be used to form dependent clauses. Let's look at another one. Haec verba audiens poeta risit. Hearing these words, the poet laughed. Verba and word both came from an older Indo-European word, which is why they sound very similar. Verba, word, ver, ur, and this is the plural accusative form. The word recit is the perfect past tense of rideo, and this word gave English the words derision and ridicule, etc. Let's move on now to the verbs that changed into adjectives that end in ed in English. As you know, ed is the past tense form in English, which corresponds to the perfect tense in Latin. However, the mood of the form we're about to learn is passive in Latin. Thankfully, this form uses the first and second declension endings. Sadly, though, their stem form usually has to be memorized. For example, here's the form of video, visuses. As you can see, the D changed to S and the vowel lengthened. Now, the meaning of participles in this form is having been plus the past tense form of the verb. So, visus means having been seen or having been looked at. And this means you are having been seen, or more smoothly, you have been seen. Let's try another. Femina vocata timebat. Here the main part of the sentence is, the woman was afraid. And vocata forms the dependent clause, having been called. So altogether this means, the woman, having been called, was afraid. And our final example contains a longer dependent clause. Puer verba illa locutus habit. The main phrase is, the boy left, and in the middle we have the verb illa. In the video on how Latin became the Romance languages, I mentioned that these words ille, illa, and illud eventually turned into the words meaning the in the Romance languages. For example, el and la in Spanish, and le and la in French. But Latin didn't have a word for the. These words instead are similar to hic, haec, hoc, but refer to something distant from both the speaker and listener. So while hic means this, illa means that. But since verba is the accusative plural, illa has the meaning those. Locutus is the participle of loquor, to speak. So altogether this means, the boy, having spoken those words, left. Participles can be a hard topic, since the perfect passive participles can be difficult to recognize. But the most important participles to learn are the present active participles, the ing participles, because these will be used the most as adjectives. Okay, we'll tackle the future participles in another lesson. See you next time. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and if you can, help support the channel on Patreon, where there are audio downloads and transcripts of each dialogue and story. Gratias!